looks like we got some interesting stuff to go over today. How you doing, guys? Welcome to another video. The official Black Friday sale is now happening at theorysabers.com. We have tons of deals. We're giving away free sabers with orders. We're giving away goodies with orders and much, much more. I also want to announce that Vader Episode 2 is coming out very soon, and this is the official Vader Episode 2 hoodie, which I hope you guys will pick up at the store right now at theorysabers.com, and these will ship out from our American warehouse in Florida. So go grab yours right now at theorysabers.com. Support Episode 2 and Episode 3. Well, I can't say 2 anymore because it's pretty much almost done and paid for, but Episode 3 with Nick Gillard is going to be an interesting one. Star Wars Rebels writer thinks making Sabine a Jedi was a mistake. And this is an interesting topic because I think so too. And I know a lot of you do.
Ahsoka took me on as her apprentice.
She what? Why?
I had my gripes with Ahsoka. I'm going to say that right off the bat. I think the few episodes that we had in Ahsoka were phenomenal. Jin and Balin stole the show from me, even though Anakin was put in there in the World Between Worlds, and it was kind of a jangling of keys, which at the moment was really cool and fun to see. The dust settles and you're like, okay, yeah, you know, this doesn't really make much sense. Now, I will say that, but the Clone Wars flashbacks were something I want to see more of, and I'm hoping that we do see more flashbacks in Season 2, because those were cool. However, making Sabine a Jedi was one of the biggest mistakes of that show. Now, writer and executive producer Henry Gilroy says that Sabine's Ahsoka arc was something considered and dismissed during Rebels. Now, if you remember in Rebels, Sabine looks at the statue of Tar Vizsla, who was the first Mandalorian Jedi, and we were all kind of theorizing that, you know, maybe she could be or something like that, but it never amounted to anything. So Ahsoka's focus on the relationship between the titular ex-Jedi and her reluctant Padawan Sabine was one of the most surprising and yet paradoxically frustrating aspects of the series. On the one hand, it helped broaden the Star Wars version of the vision of the Force and who could wield it, pushing back on narrow-sighted Jedi doctrines of the prequel era to give us a Force-wielding character with more parallels to Luke's journey with the Force across the original trilogy. How does Sabine parallel to Luke? Because she didn't know she had the Force, and now all of a sudden she does?
It's complicated.
I built this shit!
Is that what we're talking about? On the other, for as much as some of those Jedi doctrines were pushed back on in making Sabine Force-sensitive, at the end of the day, Ahsoka turned master and apprentice into pretty much the same kind of Jedi we already had, with the same kind of teaching methods and understandings, teaching methods we've spent the prequel era engaging with the failings of and being told in the sequel era that they must let go to allow a new generation of Jedi, free from the Order's dogma to truly flourish. Let's get to the quote, shall we? But one writer who helped shape Sabine's journey in Rebels disagrees that it shouldn't have ever happened in the first place. It was absolutely not the plan. We really felt that not only did it step on Ezra's story, it was a weak retread. Read that wrong. We already did this. Reflecting Henry Gilroy, a senior writer and executive producer on Star Wars Rebels, in a recent episode of Pod of Rebellion, the Rebels cast-own rewatch podcast series. According to Gilroy, the potential of Sabine discovering her Force sensitivity was an idea floated during Rebels, but ultimately dismissed by the writing team. The idea of Sabine training as a Jedi when she is already this fantastic warrior of her own type, we felt like this is overkill. Okay, then he says, I had nothing to do with the Ahsoka series, so I was shocked, Gilroy continued. What I love about the story with the Darksaber is that you don't have to be a Jedi to have Jedi ideals. I think that's what's really the more important thing, rather than force-pushing Ezra 100 feet when she's never used the Force before, which, I agree, was beyond ridiculous. I hated it.
Fuck out of here, boy. Get that weak shit out of here.
Although Gilroy does raise some interesting points, his commentary also serves as a challenge Star Wars has, by and large, struggled to grapple with in recent years. Yeah, what's that? Especially as storytelling with the galaxy far, far away slowly moves further into the post-originals, post-sequels era, the separation of what it means to be a Jedi from a philosophical and moral standpoint, and what it means to be a Jedi in taking on the mantle as a follower of the Jedi Order as an institute. Listen, I personally think that making Sabine Force-sensitive, forget Ezra, not only, you know, undermines Ezra's story and what he's going through, but it just makes too many Jedi. Now, George did always say that everyone has a bit of the Force in them. It's like karate. If that's your thing, if you practice at it, you can be good. It doesn't mean everyone can go out and get a black belt and be a master, but it means that you can learn how to punch and kick. Now, are you going to be great at it? That depends on your genetics and how good you are in general and your potential. Anakin's potential, obviously, freaking, yeah. I think that making Sabine a Force sensitive was really just some random decision that they decided to do. I don't know why Dave Filoni said okay to that. I think it was a really big mistake. I think not only it undermines Ezra's character and him being the only Force sensitive besides Ahsoka, who's on the light side, but it also just really discounts the idea that Jedi at this point are supposed to be pretty rare. And I think that was one of the most interesting things about the original trilogy is that A New Hope was Luke, Yeah, sure, Leia was a Skywalker, but she didn't want to train in that stuff, just like George said. If you want to train in it, you can be great, or you can have some sort of abilities. She didn't want to, and so Luke was the only hope. Luke was the last Jedi, right? And so now that there are so many Jedi, Cal Kestis, as much as I love him, still, he's an extra now powerful Jedi. Where was he during all of this? Where was he during the original trilogy is my question. You have Ahsoka. She was supposed to die. George wanted her to die in Clone Wars. She didn't. Dave didn't kill her off. So then she's now around during the original trilogy. Where was she?
Your fleet is lost, and your friends on the Endor moon will not survive.
Then we have, Baylan Skoll, we got Shin Hati, we got Ezra, we got Sabine now. It's just getting too much. You are diluting the importance of the Jedi by making them so common. And I think one of the things that makes Jedi really sacred and cool and mystical is that there are so few. But when you start to really just, you're a Jedi, you have Force powers, and you have Force powers, and you get a lightsaber, it's really It's like all of the lightsaber wounds now in Disney Star Wars have no lethal effect whatsoever. Whereas back in the prequels, you get stabbed in the stomach, you're dead. Now you could be Reva, you could get stabbed in the chest as a child by Darth Vader, you're still alive. You can get stabbed again, you're still alive.
Is it possible to learn this power?
Sabine can get stabbed, you're telling me Sabine has more Force abilities and powers to sustain a lightsaber wound than Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn, my favorite Jedi of all time?
Nice.
The math ain't mathin', and it just doesn't make sense. So constantly throwing the Force at all of these characters to somehow make them more interesting, more influential, more relevant, I should say, I think really just dilutes the whole effect. Sabine was great in her lane of being a Mandalorian, of being a potential new heir to Mandalore, perhaps, or having some sort of a journey there. But it just seems like they're really melding the whole Mandalorian Jedi thing all together now. And they got to cool it with that. They got to pump the brakes. It's getting too much, and it's diluting the interest of it. Grogu being the first Mandalorian Jedi when he's older, I think can be pretty interesting. But now if you got Sabine, it's just too much. So I wholeheartedly agree with Mr. Gilroy here that I don't think that was a great decision. I think it was actually quite a mistake to make her Force sensitive. And then the level of Force sensitivity as well, of being able to throw Ezra 100 feet and she doesn't even know how to use the Force. They really have to start doing their homework on how George wrote Force sensitives learning the Force. It doesn't just happen like that. And it definitely doesn't happen when you're failing and then 2 seconds later you're like, oh yeah, the Force, just like Rey did, and boom, you are great at it. You got to fail and fail and fail and time again. And that was the whole point of raising Jedi. I mean, you go to the prequel era, you have Jedi that put younglings from pretty much birth into the academy. And you have the best of the best training them in how to use the Force, how to control their emotions, how to use a lightsaber, how to aspirate their Force latency, their Force potential. And those guys took their time. They failed a million times. But it seems like now these random Jedi who are just getting Force cards thrown at them are developing their Force abilities like Rey and Sabine like that. And it just doesn't make any sense to me. I don't think that there is any sort of leveling up system in place here. And I think that really discounts the abilities of a Jedi or what it takes to be a Jedi, or what it means to be a Jedi. It's hard work and it's a lot of failure. And if you make it out still in the light side, you may still suck I think they really need to go back to the drawing board and stop throwing Force cards at every random character. You can have a character be interesting without it having the Force. Leave that to the actual Jedi. Leave it to Ahsoka, all right? Leave it to Ezra now, okay? And Luke, right? It was supposed to be just Luke. Whatever. That's my sentiments on this. I think it was a major mistake. Onwards and upwards. Love you guys. I hope you're really excited for Vader Episode 2. We are cooking up some amazing stuff, and it is phenomenal. The world will come to see what fans can do, and I hope it will keep you entertained. I hope the people at Disney will enjoy it and get a glimpse of, hey, this is kind of cool. Maybe we should possibly go in this direction. I hope the people at Lucasfilm and I hope George of all will enjoy it. I know Roger Christian will. I know Nick Gillard's going to be working on the third one. And all of your purchases at theorysabers.com will help fund everything that we are doing. We are breaking grounds on everything we are doing, and all of your support will be returned to you in the form of entertainment. I promise you. I love you guys. Thanks so much. May the Force be with you always.
Now, fulfill your destiny.